The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
On TECHxploration, your trusted tour guides, Craig and David, will explore every corner of Florida for the latest tech and innovations emerging within our communities as an inside look ahead at Florida's future.
Hello, this is episode number 5 of TECHxploration on the Florida Podcast Network, where we're discovering the tech and innovation spaces thriving under the Florida sun. I'm one of your hosts, Craig.
And I'm David, and we're from Clarity Creative Group, an Orlando-based digital marketing agency. Let's go.
On today's episode, our tech headline is all about how HomeAdvisor might be cheating small businesses out of their leads.
Then Jeff Weisbein joins us to discuss NFTs, Web3, and Crypto Cackles.
Finally, we'll end with this week's tech tip. Well, this one's kind of crazy, David. HomeAdvisor, a website that we've known for years and years as a kind of honestly a resource for home services, has been caught up in, dare I say, a scandal cheating small businesses. I mean, give us some context here. What the heck's going on?
Yeah, kind of interesting, and I guess it goes back to as long as 2014. But really, what's been happening is that they've been misrepresenting how the leads and what they've been doing with the leads, how they've been kind of being given to businesses. So what HomeAdvisor really does is like a pay-per-lead service, right? Normally, You go on there, you need a roofer, you need somebody to fix your plumbing, or you need somebody to, I don't know, build a pool deck or something like that. You go on there, you tell them what you want, and usually then you get a bunch of quotes from these contractors. Well, I guess what has come about is that they have been misrepresenting how many leads were coming in. So some of the leads were not provided to the right, like a roofer was getting drywall leads, or similar businesses were getting things that weren't right. So they weren't matching, geographic details weren't matching. So in other words, like they would tell you get 60, but really they could only really give you 30. But then they made 60 appear because they would put it out there. And I was thinking to myself, this obviously affects the home buyer, right? But it also affects businesses. But this is really about like how it affected the business. But I was like, but what about the home buyer that now is getting a quote from a roofer to do a drywall job? Doesn't sound like a great happening either. So
this is crazy to me because honestly, while HomeAdvisor may not be as well known, Angie's List, the parent company, because from my understanding, they merged a couple of years ago. That was a big name. They were doing major marketing commercials. Like, I'm not sure if it got to the Super Bowl level commercial, but used to see Angie's List stuff on TV, which really built a lot of trust, not just with the consumers, but with the small business owners. Right. And, we know from experience, our day jobs, if you will, is running a digital marketing agency. And several of our clients are in home services where, again, what their business is built around is offering literal service to homeowners. And the fact that these lead counts, which is, this hits home because it's like the lead is the lifeblood of a small business that's in this industry. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and there's a lot of trust, right, in these moments, right? There's a lot of stuff that you can't see, right, from they keep a lot of that stuff private, right? You never sometimes get to see the name of the person or the email or the phone.
Right. You just get a number.
Certain things. There's a lot of stuff there's a lot of trust that you put into them as the middleman to help facilitate this, right? It'd be like eBay, facilitating sales that aren't sales, right? It loses trust, right? And this hurt small businesses. It hurt homeowners.
Well, big time. And I mean, it's the report. And again, the charges that the FTC's got, we're talking that like leads don't match up to different service providers, or a roofer getting a opportunity for a drywall job, that doesn't work out, or leads out of a geographic location. And we're talking about businesses that are getting charged not just an annual fee or a monthly fee, but a per lead fee. So it's like, that's where the word scam comes in or cheating comes in. And we're not accusing necessarily or saying that. We're just literally reporting what became a tech headline because small businesses have for many years relied on lead aggregators like this. And this is by no means a PSA that's really trying to push like, hey, get to know your local or business marketers and connect. That way you're not having to rely on these massive companies that treat you just like a number. But when stuff comes out like this, where the government has to get involved because, again, there's an FTC charge against it, it's just disheartening for what was, dare I say, one of the most trusted home service providers, right? It was, again, because of that merger, Angie's List and HomeAdvisor coming together.
In my hopes of something like this, right, is the honesty, right? Is keeping, the big business honest, right? And maybe this can help affect, that maybe they'll come back, right? This isn't maybe the end of HomeAdvisor, but maybe they'll come back, with a renewed focus on actually keeping, their word and maybe, having it be correct and fair and the leads are who they say they are. And then there was a subscription thing that they said that you would get a free month. You never got a free month. And then they would just keep renewing you. That's not a great business practice. And like at some point, I don't know how you would think that you can kind of keep getting away with that, but it's like, you're not winning people over that way.
No, and I really like though that optimistic end there to this story, because I feel the same way, and I know we're kind of connected that way, that this isn't necessarily the end of HomeAdvisor or Angie's List, the parent company, or even their ability to potentially help small businesses. Maybe this helps some accountability, like you said, get kind of closer to make sure that the small businesses really don't get hurt here. I mean, we've seen scandals, if you will, at Wells Fargo, big companies that were able to then correct what was going on and make it better. And I think we're both very hopeful that that's the result of this. Oh, David and I are very excited today. We've got a special guest, Jeff Weisbein, a founder, builder extraordinaire that is a former New Yorker, just like David and myself. So without further ado, we're going to dive into everything that Jeff has done in tech over these last couple of decades, from a business he started when he was 13 years old to where he is now going into Web3 and marketing. Jeff, how the heck are you?
Hey, Craig, I'm doing fantastic, honestly. I feel like a lot of the best Floridians are former New Yorkers.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm a Staten Islander and David was up north. David, what do you think is different before we dive into what part Jeff was from?
I feel like we're about to alienate a lot of people, but what?
That's why I said some of the best. There are plenty of great Floridians who were born and raised here and that come from elsewhere, but especially down in South Florida, there's a lot of New York South presence, I would say.
So many people are the New York to Floridian. Like there's a very obvious path. So I think it's very easy to find us.
What part of New York were you from? And you're now in Boca. When was the transition?
So I grew up on Long Island, and then I was living in Brooklyn for 5 years prior to moving to Florida in June 2020 at the peak of the pandemic. So
you're kind of a new transplant. You're fresh. David and I came 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. Compared to you guys, I'm just a noob.
Oh, I love that. So are you upset that the deli is not as good here as it was up there? Or do you have one nearby that you respect in Boca?
Yes, I'm a little bit disappointed, but I mean, at least there's Ben's, which is better than nothing. And there are some other good deli places around here as well, but nothing that like really, tops some of the stuff you can get in New York.
I know but pre-COVID, David and I were always going back at least once a year to literally just for the food, if I could be honest. But it brings us into, what we're doing here with this podcast. And we're talking to people like yourself that are builders, right? Founders, builders, the creators of whatever's coming in the future. And you started building when you were younger than myself or David. So that inspiration of when you kind of kicked off BestTechie and what that became, but I want to connect how from literally like 13-year-old entrepreneur to now, what got you going and what was like the fire that built it into you being a full-fledged builder of companies?
Wow. Yeah. What a great question. So I've told this story a little bit before, but I think one of the best kind of like elements to understand is that when I was a kid, my computer broke. My parents had bought me, I don't know if you guys remember these E-machines. They were called the E1 was the model. And what these computers were they were basically like copycats of like Apple's iMac. The color one, the colorful ones that they used to make.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so they got sued. E-Machines got sued, and they stopped making them because Apple won that case. But long story short, I had one of these computers and they broke. It broke. There was a problem with it, and my parents were like, "We're gonna call someone to come fix the computer." So they called up a friend of theirs who had a guy who he knew, and he came over. And I just happened to be home from school at that point during the day, and I was just freaking mesmerized by everything he was doing. And so, long story short, I befriended him, and he would help me, and I would write down questions, and he was like my first mentor, I guess you could say, right? Like, he would answer all these questions I had about technology that I was trying to learn about. And then I ended up joining these support forums on a site called Tech TV, which was also a TV cable channel that was owned by Paul Allen, the late Paul Allen, Microsoft.
That's a big one. That's a biggie.
Yeah. So I was a big part of that community early on. I was just 12, 13 years old, but everyone on these forums, these web forums, thought I was some 40-year-old guy because I knew a lot of shit. Am I allowed to curse?
We'll figure that out.
Ultimately, I ended up deciding that I wanted to start a website, and my vision for it at the time, I remember I was 13 years old, and I was like, people are sharing information online. And keep in mind, this was 2003.
Right.
And people were sharing information online, and there was so much like you could learn just by, browsing the web and reading and talking to other people through these different platforms. And I was like, this is fascinating. So I started blogging. And at the time, there was no WordPress. The only other software that was out there, which was very cumbersome and very difficult to set up and install, was Movable Type, which was a different blog platform.
Wow. Yeah. This OG of OG kind of coming in here.
I know, it's crazy. So I ended up just having an HTML page where I would update the posts, and that's that's how I was blogging. So I started doing this on the website, and I would just talk about different things I was learning in technology. And if you go to archive.org, you can actually see 13-year-old me writing these little blog posts about things I was learning about. That's how I got started. And it was just from there that I realized the power of like what I had built, even though I didn't, at the time I didn't fully grasp or understand like what I could do with the site aside from share information. But then it was a year later, I started these support forums of my own. And this was honestly my first sense of like, I would say business intelligence. Like, so what ended up happening was Tech TV shut down. They sold. And they shut down the forums and they shut down the website, and people needed a place to go. So I knew this was happening, and I decided to set up my own forums. So I did. And because I had a good reputation on the website, people came over to my site. And the rest, they say, is history. Kind of went from there.
Well, you said a magic word for us that, boy, does it feel like it's all the more relevant now than ever, even though, again, tech, some people, there's a whole segment of people that are like, tech's bringing us further apart, drifting apart, whereas I feel it's the opposite. It allows us to connect in ways never before. You said a magic word. You said community. And even from back then, when it was forums and it was literally like defunct websites that don't exist anymore. How does that word resonate for you now? Community.
It's a good question. I would say the word definitely is much, much more widely used than it was in the past. I would say that it's, I don't want to say it's meaningless, because it's not, because even though it has been very, very overused and just, kind of sapped of its meaning, I think a little bit.
Sure.
But when I think about it in terms of, for me, my core values for community and the way I build it haven't changed. And I still, when I think about community, I think about my own and the stuff that I build, because that's what I'm most familiar with. As a whole, I still think it's such an important part of every, anything you do online. You need that community element. But I do feel like the word, community itself has kind of gotten a little, beaten up.
It became a buzzword, right? Like our industry, we our like day job, if you will, is we're a digital marketing agency, right? So SEO became this like buzzword that is like got beaten up, dragged through the mud, and then became like a noun and a verb and all the things where like someone could be an SEO. Your site can have SEO. People need SEO. And I wonder if community has gotten there the same way, but yet I want to know, because I think from at least just looking at some of the stuff you're working on, I was browsing your Twitter and things like that. You're helping some people refashion their communities or originate their communities, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a big part of what I do day to day with Hype Lab, and working with different, especially now with a lot of Web3 projects that are building and just getting started. They're looking for ways to create these organic grassroots communities with people who care about what they're building and want to see it succeed long term. So yeah, that's I would say one of my specialty things that I love to do and help do. So we've been working with a number of different projects on that type of engagement, which has been great. And also obviously working on it myself with Crypto Cackles. I've been building my own community because, you know, one of the things I've realized is I've built a lot of communities over the years in various different places on many different platforms with all different types of people, not just tech, you know, other types as well, social, sure. more general, you know, stuff like that. And one thing I've kind of realized is, and I think this is where Web3 actually comes in, is that it's very difficult to run a community which essentially can be its own job when you have to do other jobs. And you're not able to dedicate the time and the energy necessary to building that community because of, you know, bandwidth, right? Your own bandwidth. Yeah. And so what I think Web3 actually allows to, what we'll see and what it allows is it allows for communities to live on in perpetuity, because they can develop a way for them to become self-sustainable, and also they have the ability to transfer ownership of communities through the blockchain, which I think is really, really important.
Oh, potentially game changing. Now, before we dive deeper into Crypto Cackles, which we're absolutely going to do, what would you say for our listeners that maybe they heard you say Web3 twice there and they're not 100% sure what that is? What would you say difference between Web2, Web3? What does it mean to you that a potential listener might be like, okay, that made more sense? Because again, that might be a new phrase for them.
Yeah, for sure. So the difference between Web2 and Web3 for me is the data ownership. You own your own data. You can do with it what you please. You can also transport it to different parts of Web3, you know, without having to do anything, you know, too burdensome. The idea of Web3 is that everything you own, including NFTs, things you're collecting, things you own that are being held in your wallet, should be portable across the web. So you can bring it from, let's say, one metaverse to the next. But the important thing to know about Web3, in my opinion, in addition to that, is that it's a really, really big opportunity to experience the web in a different way as an end user, but it's also a really big opportunity to build experiences on the web in a different way if you're a builder.
No, I love that. And builder being a key term there, something you're good at. You've built many things. Is that where Hype Lab comes in, where it helps others, that entity or that agency, if you will, helps other people build? Whereas Crypto Cackles, for example, is a singular project. Could you help us understand how you view that relationship between Hype Lab, Crypto Cackles, and then literally you as Jeff?
Yeah, and that's a really great question, Craig. You're on fire, man.
Yeah, bring it. Let's go.
Push you out. I'm just kidding. So Hype Lab is a joint venture between myself and my business partner Matt Pressberg, who actually moved to Boca from LA just last August, and he actually found me through the community work I was doing on Clubhouse in my club called Florida Entrepreneurs. So he found me through that, and we kind of connected and hit it off. And I was like, hey, I know you're moving here and you do PR and you probably want to hit the ground running. I'm interested in kind of starting something. Would you want to collab with me? And he's like, yes. And this was like in June, probably we started talking about this. And then when he moved here in August, we kicked it off and we started working together. And then by September, I realized that I wanted to get into Web3. At that point, I still wanted to do Hype Lab because I believe in what we're doing. I think we're helping startups and Web3 projects with PR and community building and, strategy and, go to market stuff and just all that good stuff that goes into a good PR campaign. And then it's also interesting because Matt's more of the veteran PR guy, former tech journalist, former business reporter. And I have a similar skill set in that sense, but I also have my entire founder skill set, which is a completely untapped skill set in PR for the most part. So the way I come in and think about things as a founder and having been there, done that, I think adds a lot of value to our clients. And then anyway, so back to what I was talking about with Web3 and jumping in September, when I jumped into Web3, I did it the only way I knew how, which was I started a room on Clubhouse and a couple people joined, including this one guy who's also based in Miami. His name's Tom LaRock. And I had seen him talk in other NFT rooms on the app, but I had never spoken to him personally. So he followed in someone that knew me, and I saw him in there. I was like, "Hey, Tom, can you come up here? I'd love to chat with you about NFTs a little bit." So we started talking, and then all of a sudden he starts pinging in, inviting a bunch of people from the NFT community to come to the room. And before I knew it, the room blew up with a ton of people in the NFT space.
Oh, for
and
sure.
We were all just talking about like all the stuff that's happening, what the possibilities. And I was like, that's when I knew I had to do something. So I knew that I wanted to get involved. And I thankfully had this idea placed in my head earlier in January 2021. When I got on Clubhouse, someone told me that I should NFT my laugh, which at the time I didn't know what that meant, right? So I kind of
course, so new how that was like, what are you saying to me?
Exactly. So by the time I got around to it in September, I was like, I know exactly what I have to do. And so I started this idea for a project, and it's evolved significantly since I first imagined it. And the reason for that is because as I got more involved in this space, this Web3 NFT space, the more I realized what was the possibilities were that could be built. And that got me really excited. So the key reason why I wanted to do this, aside from the fact that I like to build stuff and learn new things, is I felt that doing this would be beneficial because I would be able to take my learnings and share them with other people, similar to how I've done that all my life in the past. So it was all about that and figuring out ways I can leverage my learnings to help other people too.
Again, isn't that the inspiration behind Hype Lab?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's then take it to Crypto Cackles for a second or two, just because, again, some of our listeners may even know, again, I've got some high level interest in Web3 and NFTs as a whole. David joined, Developer DAO and has, again, high level interest there, even though our bread and butter is Web2, right? Our traffic generation, connection to the Google algorithm and all that, and paid ads. That's kind of like how we pay the bills. We're very interested in what's going on and learning about it. Now, is like what you did, or I should say doing, because it's not done, it's just beginning actually for Crypto Cackles, is that indicative of like the energy of what Hype Lab could bring to other projects, or they're separate?
No, it's definitely indicative of what we can bring to other projects. Not only the energy level, but the lessons that the things we've experimented with, the understanding of the space as a whole. Just by being so directly involved in it, really, I think gives us a competitive edge versus some of potentially Hype Lab's competitors who may just not really get or grasp what these Web3 projects or startups are building. So yeah, it's absolutely important for me that I'm able to understand how the space is evolving. And one of the ways I do that is I talk to a lot of people, right?
I was literally about to ask, like, what does that mean for you? So keep going.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I talk to people all the time, every day. I'm in, not just in Clubhouse rooms, but in private, and reading Twitter and engaging and just, making friends and seeing what they're up to in the space, and kind of, taking that 30,000 foot view and trying to figure out, all right, so this is happening. How can this impact something else down the road? and just trying to piece it together. So I think those types of things are super helpful. I think also, it's helpful to be involved in the space because I know things that don't work or things that, are on the tail end or on the way out, so to speak, in terms of, ways to go about building community and projects.
Are you comfortable sharing any of those that could help a potential listener of like, hey, these things might not be a great solution for you. It's okay if not, but I mean, you said it, so I'm like interested.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, look, so there are definitely a lot of things, you're going to want to avoid, when it comes to if you were to create a project, for example. I'll tell you things you should be considerate of. The way you set up the mint, who get access when. I would avoid having a lower price point for pre-sale because I think that can really bite you in the butt in the end. Sure. There's so many different things that you have to consider. I would say the focus on filling up Discords with bots just to make them look active. Probably something I wouldn't do anymore. Stuff like that. I mean, there's so many things, but that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg right there.
No, and I think that's helpful for somebody to, again, be new person coming in. Obviously, taking that to the next step would be connecting with Hype Lab and really using, again, you and your website, which I'm sure we'll link to, but hypelab.digital, the landing place where someone, would you say that if there was someone interested in building a project, that would be a good inquiry potentially of someone like to connect with you, that you might be able to help them. And then obviously you take it from there in terms of a business aspect. But if someone, would they need to have like a foundation? Would they need to have certain things in order to be a ideal Hype Lab person, or you would help them all the way from idea to execution?
We work with projects or startups that have either the idea kind of fleshed out and are either go to market or are prepping for go to market or are already in the market, but they have the idea fleshed out. They have, a team kind of formed, and we'll come in and offer our services.
So Jeff, was there a person that helped you? I mean, everything you're doing is about helping people learn about the space, learn about tech. If we go all the way back to the origin, even of that first business you got off the ground, was there anyone that helped you get exposed to Web3, or was there a specific NFT project that kind of got you started?
Well, let me backtrack for a second and just say that, like, the reason why I'm so bullish on Web3 and Miami tech is because they're both in the same place. A lot of them are. There's a lot of Web3 in Miami tech.
Sure.
But also, I believe that by helping projects and startups that are building here, we elevate the entire ecosystem. And my thought is that if I can bring some of my skills and expertise that I've developed over the years in my contacts and things like that, and help, really make an impact by, especially with the startups and projects we're building here, then we're all better for that. So
100%.
Yeah. So in terms of people helping me, though, there was that guy at the very beginning who kind of, kicked it all off, right? His name was Brian. He absolutely was a huge instrumental piece of like me really getting sucked into all this. In terms of Web3, there definitely have been some people who have played a really instrumental role in, the success I've had so far and in Web3, which has been great. But there's one of me and there's only so much I can do. So I absolutely love to have people who are also interested in what we're building and want to help out and contribute, some time to do that. So I definitely do have people like that too today around me, which is super important, because you got to realize, as someone who's even as a builder or a founder, you can't do this yourself.
No. And boy, is that even the same for Web2 business or any business, right? We have clients that are just in regular traditional stuff, whether it's the legal industry or dog food, it doesn't matter. Like it's rarely just one person, right? And while yes, a builder like yourself is an integral part of the success trajectory, other people need to be a part of it. I mean, we were to that point, David and I were in a previous episode, but also we literally talk about this all the time. I'm a pro Coinbase person, and I see that like your plans for Crypto Cackles seem to line up for when Coinbase NFT is coming out. So I wanted to get your perspective on that. I mean, it's a very exciting upcoming platform that potentially could be game changing. What made you want to kind of line up with that, aside from the obvious, which is that maybe millions of new users. But was there anything specific that kind of had you looking to Coinbase, a market leader, as when you're really pushing things forward with Crypto Cackles?
I like that question, Craig. The reason I tried to get involved with Coinbase and did was because when I heard about them launching their own NFT marketplace, as you mentioned, I knew it was going to be something super large scale and important for the whole space. And I thought to myself, well, if they're launching a marketplace, they must be looking for projects to get involved with it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So what I ended up doing was I went to LinkedIn, I typed in Coinbase NFT, and I looked for employees who worked there who were working on Coinbase NFT. And I found one who looked like he could fit the bill of someone that would be good to reach out to. And I wasn't going to reach out to him on LinkedIn. That'd be weird. Because no one in Web3 uses LinkedIn really. So I went to Twitter and I found him, and I sent him a little message and I said, "Hey, I'm Jeff, and this is what I'm working on, and I know you guys are building, this and this, and just wondering, if you'd be interested in learning more about the project and seeing if we may be able to collaborate in some way." And he wrote back pretty quickly. He's like, "I love the idea. This made me smile," which was great. And so we got on a phone call and we set it up. And the reason I did all this is because, yes, I believe it opens up a whole new market of people. But I also believe that OpenSea is not the be all to end all, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm in full agreement with you. OpenSea being, for the listeners that aren't familiar, that's the current #1 marketplace for NFTs at the moment. And Coinbase, obviously, with an upcoming opportunity to potentially, I don't know, usurp them, perhaps. And maybe you feel the same way about that.
No, I definitely do. And for many reasons, Coinbase has a much larger team. They have more experience. OpenSea has not really shipped very much in the past year. They've been very slow. They've made a couple hires here and there, but really nothing has happened just yet. Plus, they've had their fair share of issues along the way, too. So, look, I'm not saying Coinbase NFT is going to be perfect, but what I'm saying is that I think it'll be a new experience, one that I'm excited that Crypto Cackles can be part of. So that's why I decided to do it.
Oh, and I think it's exciting. Huge that you're lining up with that platform. Sorry, go ahead, David.
No. I said that's exciting, and to be, able to kind of be a part of something brand new and to probably go through that experience is probably in the PR space and the learning space, right? And the abilities to kind of be at the forefront of some of this stuff gets you kind of hands-on experience with what's like to even launch on not only just a platform, but a brand new platform.
Absolutely.
And Jeff, you're kind of our first guest that's as deep into Web3 as you are. Whereas again, and I think that's just normal for literally the industry. Web3 is, while it's hitting the news and people are hearing about it with all the big VC raises and all that, it's still a small subset of the global tech population. So what for you would be something you'd want anyone to know as a good starting place for, again, obviously sending them to cryptocackles.com or then getting into that community would be great. But are there other places, but maybe they're not ready to even purchase yet? Maybe they're pre-mint, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they're not ready. They don't even have their wallet set up. What's a great starting point for what would you'd recommend for someone to enter Web3/NFT?
Ooh. So my favorite place to start, honestly, is Gaby Goldberg's Web3 reading list. And I can send a link to you guys so you can share it in the show notes or something. Basically, Gaby Goldberg, she's a VC who's really invested in Web3 and heavily involved. And she has curated a list of really interesting, thought-provoking articles about Web3. And the reason I recommend this, even if you don't fully understand some of this stuff that's being discussed in these articles, it's good to start reading to understand the why behind why you should even care about Web3. Because until someone has an understanding, a firm grasp on the why they should care about Web3, they'll never be fully motivated enough to dive in and truly understand it.
Jeff, you hit me right in the feels there. That's the insight stuff right there, because the onboarding still is a little chunky in Web3 and NFT for the regular folks, right? For the people that didn't, what I'm assuming, just we might be kindred spirits here, that we both had to at some point go down a rabbit hole of learning. That's a lot of work. Some people are not willing to do that at this juncture. And for me, and David and I jam on this all the time, that's where a platform like a Coinbase NFT comes in, because Coinbase, their regular app, their regular platform, really became about education, right? Of course you can buy and do that, but they were giving away free money to help you learn about what crypto is. And I think the more and more people like you that are quick to share, here's the reading list, here's the homework, here's how I even got to where I'm getting. To me, it's a very bright future for where tech is going. And it doesn't erase everything that was built before it, but it builds upon it. What do you think?
Oh, dude, that was so well said.
Too kind.
Yeah,
You're too kind.
I agree. I mean, I don't even think I have anything to add to that. I think you're right.
I told you we were kindred spirits. We went on maybe not knowing each other, semi-similar journeys, right? Whereas yours, maybe you said started in September, I think is what you said, right? Mine started last March, and I started diving down a deep hole and spending time in Discord. I didn't even know what Discord was, I'll be honest. At the time, I'm not a gamer, so I was never doing that. But it spoke to that, what a community can be in this new space. And I think you're on the verge of, obviously you're building, and you've built communities before, but you're capable of building new ones using the skills that you've cultivated that are now literally an asset to Hype Lab, obviously, but also to Crypto Cackles. So is there anything, as we kind of like wrap here, anything you would want someone to know besides, obviously we can get to the website, they can read about it, they can go through that roadmap, that's awesome, click and see, read about the team and everything, but is there anything they wouldn't see there that you would love people to know about Crypto Cackles?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, you can't see it there, but you'll be able to hear it there. I have the best laugh on the internet. And the reason why I'm doing this Crypto Cackles project, which, by the way, I've started recording and have been recording a documentary for that I'm putting together on the whole process and the journey. But basically, my goal here with this project is I want to bring laughter, jokes, and joy to the metaverse and the blockchain. And I've already started, putting in all the legwork, and I've started talking to comedians, and I've started talking. I have a partnership already with a certified laughter yoga instructors, and we do. One of the things I realized is that the community that I'm building is full of people who love to laugh and people who want to spread those positive vibes, in a non-toxic positivity way, but just generally good vibes. And what I realized is, we have a community that's full of all different types of people that have this kind of same common core mission or, thing they're striving for. But at the end of the day, what ultimately needs to happen is that, sometimes your community, there's different things you can offer them that resonate with them differently. And that's okay too. So you may have part of the community who's interested in laughter yoga, but they may not be interested in, the comedy shows, or you may have some people who are interested in the comedy shows but not interested in doing laughter yoga, and that's okay. But the point is that the value that we're trying to add to the NFT is going to be in various different shapes and forms and sizes, through different types of partnerships and through different types of things that we're going to end up building out down the road. And I couldn't be more thrilled about it. I think Crypto Cackles is a really, really cool project, and I'm not just saying that because it's mine, but I think the art is unique. We have an audio visual kind of art that is animated. So each hyena that we're selling 101 hyenas, or LOL, has 2 laugh tracks built into the NFT, and the hyena laughs and it's animated to the laugh track. And it's really, really funny, and it's really, really cool. Sometimes I even say stuff in these tracks while I'm laughing, and it's beyond funny. It's hilarious, honestly. I can play a clip for you guys if you want.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is one I just shared on the Discord just earlier today. This hyena looks a little bit like a doctor. It has these funny looking glasses and like a white coat. So I don't work here. And those are the 2 tracks that go with it. How's that?
That's really cool.
So there's 101 of them. And I recorded hundreds and hundreds of laugh tracks over several months. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get them released out there.
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to be a potential part of it. You never know. I mean, I'm like, I bought and sold and been a part of the NFT culture now for nearly a year. And the vision of wanting to bring laughter to the metaverse, like, damn if that doesn't hit.
There's sound, there's audio,
but it's a community of people that can be like-minded on spreading joy.
Yeah. But it goes so much deeper than that, because there's a mentality that's tied into it.
Jeff, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Artifact, but as they started to build sub communities within their larger community, there were like Zen sessions, and they were hosting yoga and things like that. And boy, does that matter for people to have a sense of togetherness, but apart, like we are with the metaverse. So you bringing laughter to the metaverse, super cool what you're putting together here, man. So appreciate you for that.
Thanks, man. David, you're so kind. And I appreciate you and for saying that as well.
Yeah, of course.
No, we can't thank you enough for being on the show here again. And you being down in Miami means you're close to Miami NFT, the convention. Is it a convention, trade show? I don't know what it is, but will you be kind of in full force when they do it later this year again?
So I will be around for Miami NFT week. I have yet to buy a ticket, but I will be around and definitely at peripheral events, or maybe I'll even get a ticket. I haven't decided yet. But I will be around absolutely and meeting people. So. I'm
definitely going to have to reach out and connect if I end up getting down there for it. I didn't go. I know they did some stuff last year and I never got there, but now as things are opening up and, part of our, just to scratch the creative itch, we've been gently working with some Web3 companies, but not on like Solidity or coding that way, just on visibility for Web2, for those that are looking to expose themselves to more and more people, which is a new thing for Web3 as a whole. But yeah, really, really exciting. It might be an interesting thing that we could have about a drink or something in Miami one day.
I'm down, man. I would love to. That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this and for being on TECHxploration.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Hey, my name is Jeff Weisbein, and I'm the founder of Hype Lab and Crypto Cackles. And my tech tip is a really, really cool Chrome extension called Similar Tech. It lets you see what websites are built on, what tech stack they're using, how much traffic they get, where their traffic comes from. It's great for multiple reasons. You could, use it for prospecting for business purposes. You can also use it to see what other people did to build their website. And it's just overall a really, really helpful and useful tool. You can also even see, if you pay for it, they have a way to get access to company emails as well. But aside from that, it's mostly free and it does a lot of really cool things. So check it out. It's called Similar Tech. You can find it in the Chrome extension store.
Thanks, Jeff, for that great tip.
Floridians are both creating and consuming some amazing innovations from shore to shore. So join in on this ride with Craig and David exploring the innovative tech in our backyards. Find the latest episodes, show notes, and news at floridapodcastnetwork.com. Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.